All right, I think looks like we've got everybody settling in. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So first off, thank y'all everyone for attending. We're so glad to have you all this beautiful, lovely Valentine's Day, wherever you are. My name is Heather Dudley. I'm the Marketing Director for DeRosa Mangold Consulting. And I want to give a special thank you to our select partners, Use and VersaPay, for working so hard with us to bring this fun and informative webinar to you all. So just a reminder to drop your questions in the chat and we'll address those at the end of the discussion. So to kick things off, I'd like to introduce you all to our fearless leader, the president of DeRosa Mangold Consulting, Mr. Mike DeRosa.
Hi, everybody. Welcome today, and thank you guys for attending, especially on Valentine's Day. I hope you guys have much more exciting plans later in the day than accounts payable and accounts receivable. But for the meantime, I hope you find this information useful and beneficial. A little bit about the folks that are about to talk to you. So DeRosa Mangold Consulting is a value-added reseller of Sage Intacct, Sage 100, and Sage 50. We've been in business a couple of decades, and basically we help companies manage their financial management and reporting systems. And we help set them up for success by building automations and creating workflows, all designed around killing the month-end close and making things easier to elevate work. And that's really what today is about. Today is about elevating your workload. Initially, accounts receivable and accounts payable is exciting. It's business moving. It's transaction flow. It's vital to our business. But as time wears on and as volumes grow, there's a lot about our work that's very tedious and a distraction, really, to to some of the bigger aspects of what we need to accomplish. So today is all about elevating your work and getting above that. We've invited two of our select partners, premier select partners that we've selected out of our work in the software as a service area. So both of these companies have excelled with their integrations with Sage Intacct. They fully utilize Sage Intacct's capabilities in the dimensional accounting, top-level accounting across multiple entities. And probably the most important, that's why I saved it for last, is they partner with us to serve the customer, the user of the system. So you've probably seen at this point in both of these areas of probably about anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen companies who are in the accounts payable, accounts receivable transaction area. This is why we have chosen these companies. They not only do the integration well, they not only have a great product to offer, but they work with us to make the customer successful, you guys being the customer. With that said, I'm going to get out of the way so you can actually see some product here and hear from these guys. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Andreas with Use. And Jennifer, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the introduction. And to build on what Mike said, we are here to discuss the opportunity that our solutions bring in elevating your work and making your job easier. As we looked at AP challenges, there are several reasons why accounting departments don't love the accounts payable process. And to highlight a few, departments still operate in a very manual way, from coding of invoices to tracking down suppliers, to even internally tracking down and going through the approvals, seeking them out from key stakeholders all the way through to payment. And you add this to the cost of labor involved and potential late fees, it can be extremely costly to an organization. The average cost to process an invoice today in the US is roughly $16. You can go ahead, Lindsay. To give you a little bit of background on Use and the strength we have in the marketplace, we were born in the cloud in 2010 and grew out of our parent company, Idasoft. Idasoft has been in existence for over 35 years and is reputable in the AP space. Used as a mid-sized company, we have offices in the US and Europe, and we are privileged to serve over 4,000 clients globally today in over 30 countries. As Mike said, we do have a tight integration in the intact space, and we are able to work across multiple ERPs. We also invest heavily, or I should say reinvest heavily into our research and development by putting 25% of our revenue back into that. Look at the slide that's in front of you. We are agnostic, and when we look at verticalization and the clients we work with, but I do think it's important to show a couple logos so that you see the strength we have and the businesses that have put their trust in us, in our solution. In addition to these customers, we also are privileged to work with 3 of the 4 big audit firms, and we do call them our customers as well. Lindsay, if you can progress, thank you. So much is said about the AP department, and looking through the lens of cost, I would encourage you to think about something. Do you actually know how much your accounts payable department actually costs your organization in hard dollars? This can be gauged as well as in delayed internal projects or advancement of the overall organization. Looking at the list, you can see that manual processes deliver a heavy cost. Second ranking would be lack of visibility to controllers. And then obviously this leads to a large rabbit hole that you can get caught in with increased late payment fees when you're not utilizing an automated AP solution. In looking at AP automation, use provides the visibility needed to drive down costs every step of the way, from inception of invoice, and then obviously ensuring approval workflows are met and defined payments. When we define AP automation, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about removing the burden of tasks in a manual situation, such as invoice processing, working with your suppliers, and leading to payments. With automation, you gain increase in visibility, efficiency, and cost savings. So as we look to costs a little bit further, I want to drill down. In many organizations, the impact is often underestimated or unknown. And I think this slide really brings to life what life is like in a manual situation then when you move into automation and what that savings can be. We already touched earlier on the cost of processing an invoice. Building out on that, you can see the reduction in cost when automation is bundled with it. Excuse me. The other one I'd like to point out on this slide is the opportunity from invoice receipt to payment. It's a pretty hefty number of days at 28.5. When you bundle it with automation, you reduce that to 6 days. A couple other things to call out as far as interesting factors in saving on cost and making your AP into a profit center. 41% of AP staff is spent handling supplier requests. Again, tracking down those suppliers, getting them on their phone. 31% of payments are realized as late by organizations, and this also involves incurring late fees. And then 80% of organizations that adopt automation, reduce their AP automation costs by 80%. So additional myths that, make organizations not love the AP process are listed above. And just to call out 3 of them. A myth is it doesn't offer seamless integration, difficult to drive user adoption, and do the benefits really outweigh the cost of change? I want to pause on this slide for a minute and kind of dig in a little bit more. With Use, we do offer a seamless integration back to the ERP, and the reason we do that is because that's your primary investment. You've invested a lot in your ERP. It's the source of truth. Our solution brings value to that ERP. Difficult from a to drive user adoption. This really can be noted as a fallacy. Organizations that specialize in AP automation like Use have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on customer care experts, where one of their primary goals is not only to ensure the solution is implemented correctly, but to ensure that adoption is being realized. And so do the benefits outweigh the costs? They do, because it is possible, again, to take a cost center as an AP department and make it into a profit center. Lindsay, if you can advance. So what are the benefits of Use AP automation? A couple bullet points on each, and then we'll progress. From a simplicity standpoint, Use is simple. Setup can occur in just a few clicks. And again, as I mentioned, it integrates seamlessly. Our platform is also fully customizable. And this means that it can be customized to mirror your business and the workflows that you have established internally. From a savings perspective and reducing costs, our efficient technology using AI and OCR allows you to reduce processing times upwards of 80%. And from speed and accuracy, the nice thing about Use is it works with its smart workflows. You are able to approve, reject purchases, invoices, and payments all on the fly via your mobile phone. You can do it anywhere, anytime. And then we do have traceability and security. Obviously, with automation, and I'll show this in a couple slides, you are able to see the actual approval process. You can know where the invoices are sitting, on whose desk and whose queue to be approved. And then security, to touch on this a little bit, and this is really important, especially in today's market, right? We guarantee compliance and security and confidentiality. Use offers legal compliant archiving. We timestamp documents, and we also certify by electronic signatures. And from a fraud perspective, we have a very unique functionality called Use Fake Detection. This automatic detection notifies you of forged documents. We're able to double check electronic signatures. We also look at historical data from your bank accounts. And so the framework is there from a visibility standpoint in Use, ease of use, and then obviously driving compliance and security. Okay, Lindsay. We'll keep going. All right. So kind of pulling off the hood, if you will, and taking a look at Use and how it's structured. We're structured in 5 phases. Looking at the screen from left to right, we encompass everything from the purchase request, purchase order, capture, all the way through to payment, if you will. After purchase, the automation experience begins with capture. Again, we utilize optical character recognition, or OCR that it's coined in the industry. And that transforms your static invoice image into actionable live data, data that is then pushed back into your ERP. We also offer customized workflows that route the invoice for verification, approval, and release for payment based on specific parameters that your team designates. You control the requirements, you control the workflows. We also offer the opportunity for you to put into process no-touch capabilities. And this is where you might allow an invoice to pass through your system without needing to be approved by multiple approvers based on certain parameters that you deem necessary. Any invoice that is under $500 can pass through, etc. Again, trying to highlight for you the ease of use, simplicity, and yet the customization that Use can bring to you in mirroring exactly how your organization operates today. And then I do think it's important because we are talking about ERP and the investment you've made on it. All invoice data and the record of its accompanying path-through workflows is exported back into your ERP as a source of truth. Again, realizing that most organizations use their ERP to run their overall business. We look at ourselves as an add-on to that ERP. Lindsay, if you can progress, please. One more, thanks. So kind of circling back on some of the things that I talked about, fully customizable. We do operate today by accessing use through your mobile phone. We will be releasing a refreshed 8 mobile app in March, so that is coming. And then obviously we highly leverage AI with an 80% invoice automation and advanced supplier knowledge. Can you go to the next slide, Lindsay? When you're ingesting invoices into the system or you receive them into your workplace today, you probably receive them in what I'll term several different flavors, if you will. Some of them may be mailed in, some of them might be sent to an individual. You might have an alias URL that invoices are sent to. The huge system can ingest invoices across multiple channels. It can be done so by all of those that I've listed. They can also be scanned into the system, or you can take a photo with your phone and upload them into the system for processing also. So again, we've created multi-channels, ease of use on your team, trying to eliminate the manual burden as much as we can. Lindsay, if you can progress. So once an invoice is ingested into the use system, this is really when the fun starts to happen for some of us that are more technical. The image you have on the right side of the screen is your invoice. What you see on the left side of the screen is actually the technology at work. It has gone in and it is reading the headers off of your invoice. Out of the box, use delivers an 87 to 90% header accuracy. So what does this mean for your AP team? It means that they do not need to manually type in each line item. The boxes that are enclosed in yellow, for example, are validation points for your staff to just check and make sure that they're okay. The nice thing about the smart data and what we use as the engine and use is every time you ingest invoices, we become smarter. We learn what your acceptable practices are. We learn how to read more, and we bring that forward. So your return on investment is continually building. And you can actually see this through the use system. You can see where you're ranking on your accuracy of reading. And again, out of the box, use delivers at 87 to 90% accuracy on reading. Lindsay, can you go to the next slide, please? As I've noted in our discussion, approvals are simple and are able to be adjusted and built to your business needs. The need to hunt down and search for approvers or determine who's got the invoice to approve in a manual process is totally eliminated. And I surveyed a number of controllers at an event I was at recently, and this was the #1 item of fatigue to their staffs, was figuring out where their approvers were in the approval process. The shot you have in front of you is a clean look of our URI and the approval process that we bring. Approval processes, workflows can be modified based on employee vacation times, employees experience emergency. Again, giving the controller and those in need total visibility of where the invoice is in the process. Okay, Lindsay. All right. So again, just to take another moment on the fraud and the seriousness that use takes of it. We've talked a little bit about the use fake detection. The nice thing about this is it also drives a compliance audit trail. And again, everything goes back to the ERP, which is your source of truth. Next slide, Lindsay. So you can hear me talk about the solution and you can see the bells and whistles that the platform brings to an organization. But I really think that the validation of our end users and our clients is what really speaks true. So we rank roughly 4.5 out of 5.0 on client satisfaction scores. And this isn't by coincidence. This is by commitment of U's leadership and the dedication and investment we make in our customer care managers. At U's, we do not believe in a ticket system for our clients. Clients do not submit a help ticket and then it gets circulated through our staff. Each client is provided a dedicated customer care individual, and that individual creates history and a muscle memory of how we've worked together and where we can bring value to that particular opportunity. And so dedicated managers follow each client. We also offer our clients the opportunity to learn more on their own. There's a couple different ways to do that through self-service within app. You can learn more about the solution, as well as we do have a dedicated resource center and Use University for our clients to learn more on our release notes and the product overall. And so I'm hopeful that you see value in AP automation and where you might be able to fall in love with it again. Lindsay, I'll hand it over to you, if you don't mind, to talk about AR.
Perfect. Thank you, Jen. Really enjoyed your session on AP automation. And let's be honest, if everybody had AP automation, we probably wouldn't have to talk about AR challenges. So to kick us off, just thinking about accounts receivable. So, obviously paying people on time and making sure you're not generating late payments, everything that happens with AP, that's very important. But if you think about accounts receivable, it's probably one of the most important aspects of what you can do in a business. You've done all the hard work, you've delivered on a product or service, and now you're just trying to get paid for everything that you've put into it. But we all know that AR is not easy. There are challenges. So similar to AP challenges, but just in the reverse, there's high overhead. So a lot of AR teams typically do become pretty big. And most of the AR team, most of the people that are on that team, I wouldn't say have a high level of satisfaction, at least if they're doing things in the old manual and tedious way. But then we look at bigger things that impact the organization. We look at cash flow. So a lot of times if people are still doing AR operations in a manual way, that's going to limit your cash flow. You're not going to get paid. You're going to have people slow paying you, and you're going to have to follow up even more diligently than you hoped. And then the big one that we see is lack of transparency and documentation. So if people are trying to make any disputes or need to kind of bring together what was discussed during a sales process or an order process, there's not a lot of ways in traditional AR processes to really document that in one place and make sure that there's visibility. And ultimately that leads to poor customer experience. So, hopefully these are obviously the reasons you might have fallen out of love with AR, but we want to talk about how you can rekindle that and fall in love with AR. So that's where VersaPay comes in. And we're going to talk about not just AR automation, but truly collaborative AR and the collaborative AR automation platform that VersaPay has brought to the market. So first, I'll just go through a couple of things about VersaPay. We have a large team of AR automation experts. We've served about 8,000 customers to date. But one thing I'd like to talk about on this slide is actually the amount of people of buyers on our platform. So when we talk about buyers, that's actually people who are paying their invoices. They bought something from a supplier and they're paying invoices on our platform. So we just surpassed the $1 million mark, and I'll talk a little bit further in the presentation why that's so important when we think about creating this kind of familiarity with a way to pay your invoices and what that does when we have more buyers on the platform. So, obviously we've worked with some big names and we're really proud of that. I think what we do want to get across today is no matter where you're at in your AR journey, you could be a really large organization, you could be someone just starting out and trying to collect some payments digitally, but VersaPay has a solution for you. And we're going to talk about that when we get to our AR maturity ladder. So first, though, I'm going to start out about the AR journey. And obviously, we've crossed out perfect. Nothing's perfect, but especially when it comes to accounts receivable and all the steps that take place during that journey. So if you think about it, when an order comes through, there could be things that happen at the stage of the order. There could be a credit review. But as we move into the invoice, payment, and settlement, there's a lot that happens, and we see this time and time again. So when an invoice is sent out, I can't tell you how many times our customers have heard this from their customers that it's lost, they didn't receive it, can you resend it? Oh, this isn't right, can we change something on it? I have some supporting documentation, I'll get it over to you. There's a lot that happens even at invoice presentment. But even after the invoice has been received, there's things that are happening when someone goes to make the payment. So they might be overdue, and that there's a little bit of conflict there. They might need to short pay. There might be a reason they need to pay less on an invoice than the invoice total. And so we want to give people a way to showcase why they might be short paying. And so all of that, it's great. We finally get payment, and then if we get to the settlement and an application of cash, there's still some issues that can happen. We can have mismatches, there can be reconciliation issues, and reporting might be off. So the big, I guess, story behind all of this is it's a complex journey, and there's lots of stages, and there's lots of things that could go wrong during each of those stages, and that's going to take a lot of time, resources, and it's going to impact your customer experience, and those are the things that we want to try and avoid. So when we think about it, in today's modern world, we think about the genius of teams and how people collaborate, how people are using the cloud. The cloud is used for better visibility, to share ideas and be more connected. And ultimately, we need people to be able to accomplish work in a faster way and in a more human way. So the cloud and technology should be there to help collaborate and streamline, not necessarily just automate. So again, when we're talking about, this digitization of accounts receivable, it's not just automating processes so that people do the same thing and it just is maybe going a little bit faster. It's really, how do we allow for a more human connection when we're trying to collect money for what we've provided to the end buyer. So we know this isn't true, though, in accounts receivable. There's still what we call an AR disconnect. And so what that means is everything we saw in that order to cash process is there's a disconnect between the AR department and then the AP department. And obviously, with tools like Use, AP automation, some of that can be reduced, but again, not every buyer is going to have an AP automation solution that makes it more streamlined on their end. And we'll talk about, if they do, why they still want to consider VersaPay. So when we think about this, it's just, overall, we know it's going to be a nightmare, especially when people say a check is in the mail. We know that it still happens. People still like to pay by check. And so when we talk about a cloud solution, being able to communicate and collaborate, we've brought to light, there's a way to do collaborative AR. And what's exciting is we even have a solution for when a check is in the mail or when people are paying by paper check. So we know, obviously, that this is happening. And when I first started at VersaPay, AP automation was all the rage, and it should be all the rage, but AR automation really wasn't even scratching the surface. And a lot of people, they were trying to automate every part of the business. So if you think about sales, marketing, other accounting operations, AR just wasn't focused on. And still to this day, I don't quite understand it. Why wouldn't you want to automate being paid first as part of your business process? But even when we in a Wakefield study, we surveyed some executives, so 1,000 C-suite executives, and we found that most executives know that this is an issue. So when we think about it, if 95% of executives agree that better collaboration would decrease disputes, why isn't there a focus on it? Or why has it taken so long? They also agree that AR departments really aren't customer oriented. So if you think about the sales cycle, if you're customer oriented all along the way, and when someone's coming to pay you and you don't have, it's not very customer oriented, what effect is that going to leave? Are you going to get repeat purchases? So we really need to start thinking about how can executives start to pick apart and decide what's most important and how do they start. So the nice part is here at VersaPay, we talk about something called the AR maturity ladder, and we have solutions that line up with this ladder. So at the base, what we look at is, can we facilitate payment processing or collecting on payments in a digital way? So, going from checks to credit cards or ACH. So not only can we provide credit card processing and ACH processing, but how do we actually embed that into specific ERPs? So that's the next level up, as we start to think, okay, we want to have it where it's not just payment processing where you collect credit card payments and then you have to reconcile it back, but how do we actually integrate that with the ERP and make it seamless? So that would be the next step up. And then we start to think about true AR automation, and the pinnacle is collaborative AR. And so AR automation is really automating things like dunning notices and just having a little bit of ease of use. And so some back office functionality, but also like having a customer portal, things like that. But when we think about collaboration, and the reason why I say that is the pinnacle is because collaboration or collaborative AR really allows both sides to speak to each other. It allows a supplier to have full visibility of what they're doing, what they're sending, and how people are communicating with them, what they need to say from the buyer side. But the buyer has their own login too, and they're able to see what the supplier is telling them. So it's a true conversation over the cloud versus just an automation of tasks. And so that's why at VersaPay, we really believe in collaborative AR, not just AR automation. And so when you think back to executives who are scratching their heads saying, we know this is an issue, we know that we need to do something, but where do we start? The nice part is we can start at any level, wherever the business is at, where their needs might be. We can start with, basically invoice presentment and a pay now invoicing. And as they have larger and larger AR needs and disputes, we can go up to more of a collaborative AR approach. And so that's why we did build a platform lineup. We wanted to make sure that people could come into VersaPay at different levels. So if they really just need like a customer portal to make payments, so to send out a payment link for someone to log in, quickly see their invoice and make a payment, that's great. But if they need more collaborative AR and they need to have a supplier portal, then we want to have that as an option as well. And when we put cash application in here, we put it in two separate places, because cash application, when I'm talking about paper checks or bank lock boxes, people might need cash application standalone, and that's something that we can look at and talk about separately from the full suite of solutions. But then we can also look at it, how do they integrate together? So how do we look at collaborative AR with cash application, and how do we start looking at digital payments, digital collaboration, and then what's coming in from maybe a non-digital space, such as checks. And so we're not going to get too much into the solutions today. What I do want to just make sure you guys are aware is, if you are having challenges collecting on payments or speaking with people who you're trying to collect payment from, that's really what VersaPay is here for. We want to make it a better experience for you guys to take in and apply the money that you have worked so hard to generate. So just to give you a quick preview, When I'm talking about that collaborative experience, obviously we have the supplier portal. That's again where the AR team will log in. They'll manage their day through this portal. So they're going to be able to see things like days sales outstanding, average days to pay. They're going to be able to drill into their different clients who they need to work with and follow up with who do have invoices outstanding. The nice part about the dashboard is this can be from a company overall, so we can see these metrics from a high level, but we can also drill down into a subset of customers, or even down just to the customer themselves, and we can see where those trends are happening. So it really reduces the amount of time that the AR team has to sort through spreadsheets, look at aging reports, all of it's right in front of them. And then again, when we talk about the customer portal, that's just a really nice place, not only to go in and make one payment on an invoice, but to see multiple invoices, to see full statement views, to go in and set up things like auto pay or change payment methods. Again, they're able to raise a dispute in here, and on the supplier side, they're going to see it. So really it is about that communication back and forth. And I'll quickly just go through it so you guys can see it a little bit closer. When we talked about intelligent collections, again, we do have some of that automation built in. So there's things that we have already thought about for a lot of our clients. Like if people are delinquent, we have over 150 different notifications, but they are configurable. So they're not just the same message to every single customer. Those can be edited and changed. And then we can also help prioritize those because we can use tags to segment customers. So in addition to having the types of email notifications that are configurable, we can combine that with being able to tag and showcase what types of customers they are. So if you have a high value customer, you may not speak to them or send them the same type of notices in the same way as you would to someone who, you know, their business is important, but maybe not as important. And so your language and what you're communicating might be different. And then again, back to collaboration and communication. I think I've touched on this one quite a bit, but really we want people just to have a way to quickly open disputes, add an attachment. So you can see here, if they open a dispute, they basically say, hey, this item wasn't delivered. Here's a picture of the shipment, and the resolution can be worked out on the platform. This not only helps with speed of answering because you're not having to wait for someone to pick up a phone call or respond to an email, it's all tracked and time-stamped, but everybody can see the full, the full conversation that's happening. And if anyone else needs to be looped in, you can actually notify colleagues to say, hey, we're having this conversation about a dispute. Can you check on this? It might be someone in the warehouse. And so there's just a lot around being able to communicate and collaborate both internally and externally with our solution. And the last thing I'll touch on just as a quick overview is really that back to that cash application automation. And so again, if you are receiving paper checks, if you have a bank lockbox, if you guys are having issues matching up remittance information with payment, we have basically built something that will ingest in, it will read the check, it will start to learn, so we have some machine learning built into this, and it will start to identify if there's interesting things that happen, like maybe invoices have an INV at the front, and that's not going to line up with the information they put as a memo on their information. We want the system to be able to learn, and it will actually pop up any potential matches, and it will allow you to apply them and validate them pretty easily. So again, the message here is we can do anything from, payment processing that makes sure it's easy within the ERP, or very, very easy ways to collect credit cards and ACH, all the way up to collaborating back and forth within the system to resolve any disputes or issues with the invoices, all the way to if there's offline payments like check, we have solutions to take care of that. So at the end of the day, we hope that you will consider bridging the gap with VersaPay. We want to make sure your team, your accounts receivable team, really has the tools that they need. So those integrated collaboration tools, we hope it's effortless just to send out an invoice, to help people follow up on collections, have those insights. And of course, we are going to make sure it syncs back to your ERP, since that's the source of truth. But on the flip side, we also want to make sure your customers are really excited. We want to make sure, the whole theme today is fall in love. We want your customers to fall in love with you too. Even if you're collecting payment, we want them to enjoy the experience. So we want them to have access to complete information. We want that collaboration on their side too, so that they feel heard and they can see what's happening. And we want them to have self-service so that they can access it at any time. People want to be flexible these days. So with that, we hope both sides of the house, the AR team who is leveraging the system to manage their processes, and your customers who are leveraging the customer portal to make payments and do the things they need to do, we really hope that both sides start to fall in love with the AR process again. So quickly, I want to talk through just the VersaPay network and what that means. I touched on it on one of our intro slides. And so when we talk about 1 million buyers who are working on the network, or who are transacting on the network, we want to give you a visual of what that means. So when we're talking about AR teams, they have lots of things that they're having to deal with. They might have their ERP system, but they might also have payments coming in through e-commerce and point of sale. There might be other document storage systems they have to deal with. And when we think about the buyer side, they have things like AP systems. We hope they're doing AP automation on their side. We hope they're streamlining how they pay. We want to connect with those AP systems and make it an easy conversation back and forth. So really, it's bringing everything in the payment process all together and making sure that the tools and systems we know people use can be connected and can allow 1 million plus buyers to transact on our network. So what sets us apart? I've talked about it again and again, collaboration. We fully believe in collaborative AR, not just AR automation. Adoption, this is one I will take a second just to speak about. If you launch an AR automation tool or a customer portal and people aren't interacting with it, or they're not adopting it, they're not logging into their customer portal to make payments. If they're not adopting it, then you really have spent all this time and energy setting up something that they're still calling and emailing. So we are very proud that we have an average of an 82% of people using or adopting. So when they're sent out an invitation to go into their customer portal, 82% of people are actually adopting it, going in, making payments. So adoption is really key for us. If you look at the industry, it's usually about 20 to 30%, so 82% is really great. And then we talked about payment facilitation. We do run a lot of the process ourselves, so the underwriting, we're able to get some of the best rates out there. We also fully integrate, fully connect with many ERPs are integrated, so we've pre-built connectors, but we can also work with any ERP. So we're pretty agnostic, and we have the knowledge and the resources to really make sure that whatever your use case is, we're looking at how we can make those connections happen. And then again, going back to the network, the more people that are paying on VersaPay, they're getting invoices that are being delivered on the VersaPay network. There is this familiarity, like, oh, I've already paid this way before. We actually have many stories of customers saying, hey, I paid through VersaPay for this company, and I also pay for it over here. I'm really starting to enjoy this process, and why can't all companies send out their invoices from VersaPay? So just some really fun stories around that network appeal and people becoming more familiar with the VersaPay network. So at the end of the day, our whole goal is to make your life better, to make you fall in love with accounts receivable. I think you will if you could reduce the time managing accounts receivable by 50%. If you could increase the speed of payment by 25%, decrease past due invoices by 30%, and have a 95% customer satisfaction rate, I think you would start to fall in love with accounts receivable again. And these are the metrics, or what we show that we deliver to our clients. So we're really proud of that, and we hope that that you guys are interested and excited to fall in love with accounts receivable again. So I think, Mike, we're going to just turn it over to you and Heather to close it out.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for attending. We do want to respect your time, and we're coming up at the top of the hour. I hope you saw something in there that can help you with your month-end process. I think we're seeing that automation is going way beyond just automating transaction. I like to use fake detection. I like the collaborative AR and giving our customers a way to collaborate with us on receivables. And then, of course, both of these systems are providing fully reconciled transactions when they're bringing them into their ERPs. But with that said, let us know how we can help. And you can reach out to us regarding systems that we specialize in, Sage Intacct, Sage 100, Sage 50, or you feel free to also reach out to VersaPay and use directly.